Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Kodesh. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today we're going to go into the book of 2nd Maccabees, the 8th chapter. Then Judas Maccabeus and they that were with him went privately into the towns and called their kinsfolk together and took unto them all such as continued in the Jews' religion, and assembled about 6,000 men. And they called upon the Lord that he would look upon the people that was trodden down of all, and also pity the temple profaned of ungodly men, and that he would have compassion upon the city sore defaced and ready to be made even with the ground, and hear the blood that cried unto him. So their city was completely destroyed. It was just like unrecognizable at this point. And remember the wicked slaughter of harmless infants, and the blasphemies committed against his name, and that he would shew his hatred against the wicked. Now when Maccabeus had his company about him, he could not be withstood by the heathen, for the wrath of the Lord was turned into mercy. So now the Lord started to deliver Israel. Hence no heathen could stand before Judas. Therefore he came at unawares and burnt up towns and cities. So he basically caught him off guard, burnt up towns and cities, and got into his hands the most commodious places, and overcame and put to flight no small number of his enemies. So basically a lot of his enemies, he put them to flight. He took over cities, he took over strongholds, and reclaimed them for Israel. But specifically, he took advantage of the night for such privy attempts, in so much that the fruit of his holiness was spread everywhere. So he would use the cover of the night to strike, all right, and have much success in it. And the holy things that he was doing, right, the success he was having, became spread abroad. A lot of people started hearing about it. So when Philip saw that this man increased little and little, or by little and little, and that things prospered with him still more and more, he wrote unto Ptolemaeus, the governor of Seleucia and Phoenice, to yield more aid to the king's affairs. He's like, yo, you got to come help, because this guy he's becoming a problem. Then forthwith choosing Nicanor, the son of Patroclus, one of his special friends, he sent him with no fewer than 20,000 of all nations under him, to root out the whole generation of the Jews. And with him he joined also Georgius, a captain, who in matters of war had great experience. So they went and got reinforcements, right? They got troops, they got captains, they got experienced men. So Nicanor undertook to make so much money of the captive Jews as should defray the tribute of 2,000 talents, which the king was to pay to the Romans. So Antiochus owed an indemnity to the Romans, once again, because of the treaty his father had to sign for that loss in the war. Nicanor is like, yo, when we take over these Jews and sell them, we're going to make so much money, it'll cover for all of that. Wherefore immediately he sent to the cities upon the seacoast, proclaiming a sale of the captive Jews, and promising that they should have 80 bodies for 1 talent. Basically 90 people for 1 talent of silver, gold, whatever that measurement would, currency or gold or money would be, let's call it that. Not expecting the vengeance that was to follow upon him from the Almighty God. So his big ass head, he's already thinking like the battle's in our hands, already got in the bag. So he's already promoting the sales before even going to the war. Now when word was brought unto Judas of Nicanor's coming, and he had imparted unto those that were with him that the army was at hand, they were fearful. So when he told us his army, those that were with him, this is the army that's here, they're on their way, they got afraid and distrusted the justice of God, fled, and conveyed themselves away. So they started to desert him. Others sold all that they had left, and withal besought the Lord to deliver them, sold by the wicked Nicanor before they met together. So he had already made sales, like in word, that is, of them, saying, bring your money, we're going to be selling such and such and such and such, before even going to battle with them. And so you had people that were afraid, thinking this would be the case, so they started selling their stuff. Oh, Jake. And if not for their own sakes, yet for the covenants he had made with their fathers, and for his holy and glorious name, by which they were called. So Maccabees called his men together unto the number of 6,000, and exhorted them not to be stricken with terror of the enemy, nor to fear the great multitude of the heathen, who came wrongly against them, but to fight manfully, and to set before their eyes the injury that they had unjustly done to the holy place, and the cruel handling of the city, whereof they made a mockery, and also the taking away of the government of their forefathers. So instead of being afraid, look at the things they've done. Look at what they did to the city. Look at what they did to the temple. Look at what they did to us. For they, said he, trust their weapons and boldness, but our confidence is in the Almighty, who at a beck can cast down both them that come against us and also all the world. So the Lord could just snap his fingers and literally they would all be done. In fact, the entire world will be done. That's the God that we serve. So what are you afraid of? Moreover, he recounted unto them what helps their forefathers had found, and how they were delivered when under Sennacherib 185,000 perished. Right? The Lord sent an angel and slew 185,000 men of Sennacherib. And he told them of the battle that they had in Babylon with the Galatians, how they came but 8,000 in all to the business. So you had 8,000 Jews that basically came to the aid of 4,000 Macedonians. And that the Macedonians, being perplexed, they were in a tough situation. The 8,000 destroyed 120,000 because of the help of the Galatians, that is, because of the help they had from heaven, and so received a great booty or spoil. Thus, when he had made them bold with these words and ready to die for the law and the country, he divided his army into 4 parts, and joined with himself his own brethren, leaders of each band, to wit, Simon and Joseph and Jonathan, giving each one 1,500 men. Also he appointed Eleazar to read the holy book, and when he had given them this watchword, the help of God, that was like their battle cry, so to speak, himself leading the first band. And by the help of the Almighty, they slew above 9,000 of their enemies, and wounded and maimed the most part of Nicanor's host. So put all to flight. So they ended up defeating Nicanor's army, and took their money that came to buy them, and pursued them far, but lacking time they returned. So those that came for the sale, they ended up taking their money and basically chased them, but they had to put an end to the chase because they were running low on time. For it was the day before the Sabbath, right, the day of preparation, and therefore they would no longer pursue them because the Sabbath was coming in. So when they had gathered their armor together and spoiled their enemies, they occupied themselves about the Sabbath, yielding exceeding praise and thanks to the Lord, who had preserved them on to that day, which was the beginning of mercy distilling upon them. So they kept the Sabbath with joy and thanksgiving, because the Lord had preserved them. But that was only the beginning of the mercy the Lord was bringing upon them. And after the Sabbath, when they had given part of the spoils to the maimed and the widows and the orphans, the residue they divided amongst themselves and their servants. When this was done, and they had made a common supplication, they besought the mercy of the Lord to be reconciled with his servants forever. So they prayed to the Lord to be reconciled unto them, to have mercy. Moreover, of those that were with Timotheus and Bacchides, who fought against them, they slew above 20,000, and very easily got high and strongholds, and divided among themselves many spoils more, and made the maimed and orphans, widows, yea, and the aged also equal in spoils with themselves. So at the gain that they got from this, they used to take care of, the maimed, the orphans, the widows, before they took for themselves. And when they had gathered their armor together, they laid them up all carefully in convenient places. And the remnant of the spoils they brought to Jerusalem. So what was left, they brought to Jerusalem. They slew also Philocles, that wicked person who was with Timotheus and had annoyed the Jews many ways. Furthermore, at such time as they kept the feast for the victory in their country, they burnt Callisthenes, that had set fire upon the holy gates, who had fled into a little house. So he received a reward meet for his wickedness. What a demon. They caught his ass. As for the most ungracious Nicanor, who had brought 1,000 merchants to buy the Jews. So this dude went and set up everything. He brought them. He said, come on, you can come and purchase some Jews. He was through the help of the Lord brought down by them, of whom he made least account. Right? He didn't think anything of them. He thought the battle was over before it even started. And putting off his glorious apparel and discharging his company, he came like a fugitive servant through the midland onto Antioch, having very great dishonor, for that his host was destroyed. So he went there with all that army, and now he came back dishonorable. Thus he that took upon him to make good to the Romans their tribute by means of captives in Jerusalem, right? Because he's thinking, oh, we're going to get the money from selling the Jews and pay that to the Romans, told abroad that the Jews had God to fight for them. The same person who went there talking about we're going to sell these Jews is now spreading the word that you got to watch out for them. They got a God that fights for them. And therefore they could not be hurt because they followed the laws that he gave them. And that brings us to the end of the book of 2 Maccabees, the 8th chapter. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.